you all know that I hate trailers like a motherfucker, but they decided to drop Dune 3's trailer, and I just couldn't resist. Of course, there is an exception to this rule, and for those of you who have seen my video on how trailers are ruining film, you'll know that if I've read the book, then yes, I can watch the trailer because there are no surprises. And the last time I did watch a trailer was for Project Hail Mary, which I'll hopefully be watching this weekend. And yeah, having read Dune Messiah and all of those, I think I was qualified to watch this trailer. And of course, I couldn't resist. I mean, sort of, it's one of my favorite movies, sort of. And okay, so I was surprised that they hadn't yet released anything for what's it called, Dune, considering that we are not worthy of the day that is going to be that is being christened Dune's Day. That is, of course, December 18th this year, on which Dune 3 and Avengers Doomsday are going to be releasing. And for those of you who've watched our most anticipated movies of 2026, I don't think anything comes quite close to that day. It's going to be this sort of earth-shattering moment. So yeah, I was surprised that sort of 9 months shy of the release day, we hadn't gotten anything. But lo and behold, they released what's it called, teaser posters yesterday for the movie. And then, of course, they, with the, prospect of a trailer coming soon, but they decided to release it the very next day. So very quickly on the posters. So, of course, starting off with Paul Atreides himself. Now, you will note visible scarring around his eyes. Of course, that is an illusion, an inference of things to come. Now, for those of you who haven't seen the movie, I will not have read the books. I will not spoil it, but there's a reference to what I'm talking about in the movie as well, in the trailer as well, in which there's this very bright sort of explosion sort of thing. So, yeah, dark days ahead for Paul Atreides. Then, of course, you have Lady Jessica. He's not, I don't know how much of a presence she has in this movie, considering that she doesn't have much in the book itself. So let's see how Villeneuve adapts that. Zendaya, who plays Chani, is visibly scarred. Like, there's scars all over her face. So she's definitely battle hardened. And interestingly, how the last movie ended, besides being, of course, that faithful concubine, I feel that Villeneuve wants to beef up the role, but perhaps give her more agency, like sort of, just more of a presence, which I guess she deserves, considering that Paul's other wife, played by Florence Pugh, Princess Uran, she's all thick, like Emma Stone in Begonia, and not a woman to be trusted. We then have, of course, Tilgar, played by Javier Bardem, my man. Shout out to Javier Bardem for what he did during the Oscars. No a la guerra, and of course, Free Palestine. He looks worse for wear, but he has yet to meet Lito and Ghanima. Those guys are going to give him hell. Okay. Who else do we have? Okay, some new faces and one returning face. One, of course, is the character of Farouk. Now, I don't remember this guy from the book. But he's played by I think that Ivorian actor, forgetting his name, but good actor. Maybe he plays one of the fanatics. I don't know. So that's new, or maybe he's a creation for this movie alone, much like that lady was in the second movie, and even she was put on the poster. But I'm surprised why they didn't give the thing to like Charlotte Ramping's character, the Reverend Mother Gaius Mahim. Maybe he deserved it more, because she does play significant part in this in the book and the movie, the third one now. Of course, we have Robert Pattinson's character Skytel, the shapeshifter, the face changer, or whatever they're called. In this, of course, he's bald. In the trailer, he has peroxide blonde hair and no eyebrows. So good to see him. And the poster has that nice sort of shift blur type thing. So of course, it refers to what he can do. Then you have the batshit crazy Alia, played by Anya Taylor Joy, covered in blood. We talk about what she does in the trailer itself, but of course, the madness maybe may stem from her yet to be. She does get possessed by her grandfather at one point, which is kind of stupid, but whatever. And of course, we have returning to the fold, Jason Momoa. Now, for those of you who haven't read the books, sorry, spoiler, but there he is. We all knew he was coming. So those were the posters. Great. Now, before I talk about the trailers, the trailer itself, which of course I have seen 5 times already. I will see it a sixth after I do this video, and in 4K no less. Turned off the lights. They sort of, it was almost like sort of a religious experience, because the thing is that sort of the first movie and then the second movie were just so, I love them. And sort of it delivers in true Villeneuve fashion, but we'll talk about the trailer in a second. I have to talk about the book, because I will be honest, and for those, and I'm sure there are many of you who are going to disagree with me about this, but at least this is my own personal opinion. I did not like Dune Messiah. Um, this, of course, the second book in the series, written by Herbert in '69. And while Villeneuve split the first book into two for the movies, um, they were all covered in the first Dune. And this, of course, is concluding on this note, although in the books it concludes with, well, it continues way beyond, but I mean, sort of, Paul's story at least concludes with Children of Dune. I didn't like Dune Messiah. I didn't like Dune Messiah because we sort of end the first book on this almost transcendent note, literally, where Paul has exacted his revenge and sort of like, is triumphant and is now sort of, he has fulfilled the prophecy almost. He showed the Padishah Emperor what's what, and sort of, at least for readers, it ends almost on this, say a hopeful note, but like, sort of, you're like, okay, we like Paul, he is perhaps deserving of this, so good on you, sort of, we're with you. And I think perhaps for that very reason, Herbert wrote what he did, because Book Two, Messiah, goes at length to dispel the myth of Paul Atreides. Herbert is telling readers not to be too taken in by demagogues, not to be too taken in by charismatic leaders, for our corrupt, I mean, for there is always this chance for these leaders upon whom we may pin our hopes and aspirations, to turn them in ways that cannot be imagined. And sort of, he's asking us to be wary of that. And sort of, and I think this was in reaction to many fans looking to Paul as a hero, but I think that sort of Herbert had other ideas in mind as to what Paul is. And sort of, you get inklings of that even in the book as well, because the thing is that, him and his mother and sort of the Bene Gesserit before them kind of co-opt the Fremen. So something that sort of we see in the book voiced by, not in the book, in the movie voiced by Chani, about how sort of like, if a revolution is to come or if freedom is to come, it should not come at the hands of Paul or an outsider. It should be sort of indigenous. And I think that is something that, sort of, we are kind of swept away sort of in the moment, but it's sort of realized in hindsight that sort of, yeah, I mean, like, it kind of uses the Fremen for that. But okay, that's something. Now, why I didn't like the book. The book, of course, picks up almost, I think, a decade after, pardon me, almost 10 years after the events of the first. And in it, of course, Herbert skips the entire sort of like, something that sort of I wanted is the jihad. Like, he skips that almost entirely. We do, of course, learn that Paul's hands are bloody. 60 billion almost have, I think, been killed. Worlds has been cauterized. And I think that if that doesn't shatter the image, the myth of Paul, then I think sort of throughout the book we do see that, I mean, having the sight that he does realize that he has made many a mistake, but it is those mistakes, much like that thought experiment, that one with, on the two railroad tracks where you have sort of the single individual. Do you kill him to save this bunch of people, or what do you do? I mean, sort of, um, what is the there is no right answer, right? So at least in Paul's reckoning, in his thinking, sort of, what is the path of least resistance? Does he save humanity, or, by means of killing these people? I mean, sort of, how does he get to that end point? How does he break humanity out of this rut? Um, his way, at least, is, by waging this bloody war. So that was one thing that I didn't like, that sort of Herbert skips that. He goes straight to sort of trying to demystify the character. And then, of course, which is understandable, but I don't know. I think I found it a little boring, a little plodding. The sort of court intrigue is the sort of the political machinations, is all of this stuff that's going on. Because the thing is that you have his Irulan, she's sort of like plotting with the Bene Gesserit, the Spacing Guild, remnants of the regime, of the Padishah's regime, those people, and they're sort of plotting against him. Then you have sort of his batshit crazy sister. You have the children, you have Chani, and there's all of these things. So instead of it going to a scale which I felt was hopefully going to go galactic, it still remains kind of centered on Arrakis and sort of all of these people. And they're, of course, title, and sort of like, him trying to sort of get in and there. Then you have the dwarf Ijas and him giving the Gaula, which is something I just absolutely hate about the rest of the books. I mean, there are just these clones upon clones upon clones. I mean, even like, what, 6,000 or 10,000 years into the future after these events, you still have, what's it called, clones of all of these people being made. I just found that really stupid in the rest of the books. I never liked it, right? Um, but yeah, how there was almost this shorthand established by critics to describe things, and they used sort of Game of Thrones as their go-to. So they were always like, "Oh, this is Game of Thrones, but set in feudal Japan," to describe Shogun. So, I mean, them describing. Now, Villeneuve always said that sort of this movie, Messiah, was always going to be quite different to the other two. Because while we are sort of rooting for Paul in the first two, this third one was going to be quite different. It was going to be sort of, you know, having this Paul who is almost repugnant, then also sort of mystifying, and sort of, it's okay. Back just quickly on the book. So just these things. Then, for example, like Gurney Halleck's not there, Jessica's not there, which I found kind of strange, considering that you would imagine that those people would be there, like right by him. Um, and it was just something about that book that I felt that was a bit of a sort of like, sort of a trough to the peak that are Dune itself and then Children of Dune. Something about it just didn't really work for me. So I remember at the end of the second movie, I was a little bummed, if you will, that, Dune Messiah, the third movie, because they already announced that they were going to be making one, that it wasn't going to be as good as these two. But I will say this, my faith has somewhat been restored by this trailer. The trailer, of course, is fantastic. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a fanboy, but because, you know what, sort of, as we have come to expect from Villeneuve, this otherworldly, fantastical images, these sort of alien sounds, and you get that with Paul, and that sort of, I think, sort of this war chant that he has, you know, and it really pumps you up because there he is as that one scene, and he shaved his head. That sort of, you see that sort of initially, and he's sort of forehead to forehead with Alia, and you have the Fedaykin around him, and they're sort of, there. And then you have various scenes of the jihad itself. So thank God, at least there's going to be battle scenes. Hopefully, I want that. Um, so you have that. Then, of course, you have Paul and Chani, and they're talking about sort of like, the two children that they're going to, that, Lito and Ganima, they're having. Um, yeah, I mean, sort of, if it doesn't give you like sort of, not even chills, if the hair, if it doesn't like, get you a pump, but like sort of wanting for like, that third or December 18th to come like right now, then, sort of, it was most definitely worth the experience of watching this trailer. Now, what things did I pick up in this trailer that sort of we haven't seen? Of course, oh yeah, um, there's of course Jason Momoa. You get to see, okay, forget that. First of all, we do now. We had seen, I think, the Spacing Guild in the first movie. Remember when they come to Caladan first time to meet the family? All of those people, the representatives of the Emperor. So you see those guys in those sort of white things, and sort of like, the visor, the faceplate is kind of like, shadowed in thing in spice. So in this case, you see this sort of floating sort of coffin type thing, and you see Scudder's character. So there's that. Of course, you see the Bene Gesserit in the shadows. Um, I think that there's an allusion or two, a reference or two to assassination plots, because the thing is that there is, I think they're going to show those maybe, or that there's going to be things. There's definitely going to be some assassinations going on. There's also, if you've seen the ending scene of one of them, um, fight scene atop a worm. That I think is definitely going to happen. So you see Kani, and I think she's facing off against two, what's it called, other Fremen, which is a plot from the book, of course, and a major plot point in this. Paul, of course, is going through changes. Besides, of course, the visible ones with him shaving off his hair. Um, I think it does end. I mean, there's that he says that sort of, I'm not scared to die, but I must not die yet. So of course he's seen his own death, right? We know that. But I think in order for him to sort of ensure that sort of the path, they stick on the path, he has to sort of maneuver, he has to make sure things are there. Then of course there's that scene of Stilgar and the Fremen fighting these space samurais. Of course, the Sardukar are gone, and that's sort of the space samurais. They look pretty cool. What else? What else? Uh, fight scene. Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't see any worms. No worms. Um, what else? I think that's pretty much all of the little bits and bobs that I could cover. Now, sort of as to when. No, I don't think that we need to parse the trailer anymore, because then, for those of you who haven't read the books, that would be giving away stuff. So let's not do that. But yeah, man. I mean, in delivering, at least, I mean, sort of, you feel that sort of after delivering, sort of the sublime, like Dune 2, where you have these visuals that just you feel that can't be topped. He does that sort of on within minutes. In this, there's that scene where you have them using the sort of those anti-grav belts, and they're kind of hopping from, I think, one ledge to another, and they're sort of, it's Alia. She's kind of flying through this cavern. It looks pretty cool. I mean, there's that. There's a lot of throne room scenes. There's that hip firing on. There's so much. So yeah. I mean, sort of my words, I don't think can do justice to the trailer itself, but I mean, I feel I'm not. Should I? I think I will. I think I'm going to read the book again just to sort of like, maybe it needs a redo because I did read it almost like years ago. So I think I need to pick it up again. But yes, until then, rewatch Dune 1 and Dune 2. And here's to Dune's Day, December 18th. Thanks for watching.